In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire fell as Germanic tribes sacked the city of Rome for the final time, marking the end to Rome's ancient dominance in Western Europe and the beginning of the Dark Ages. While Rome's dominance would continue for a time in the East, the fall of Rome in the western half of the empire would go down as one of history's most significant turning points, having led to the fragmentation of Europe into a patchwork of kingdoms and the loss of much of the knowledge and culture of the classical world. But what if things happened differently? What if, through a few key changes, the Roman Empire found a way to survive and continue its legacy in perpetuity? Today we explore an alternate world in which Rome literally never falls. But first, we need to talk about the elephant in the room: Britain. The Roman conquest of Britannia was a vanity project at best, and an exercise in futility at worst. It rarely delivered anything in the way of natural resources for the empire. It took constant presence from multiple legions to fight off the Celtic warlords and tribes, and routinely diverted vital military resources and supply chains from Rome's more profitable and frankly more important provinces on the continent. In this timeline, to save Rome, we keep it out of its own way, and specifically, keep it out of Britain. Whatever line of emperors comes out of this timeline, each and every one of them simply sees Britain as what it was: an unimportant backwater, and a distraction from the real goals of Rome. In this timeline, all the emperors of Rome simply leave Britain alone. This will leave lasting ramifications on the future of the world that would be nearly impossible to predict. The absence of Rome and Britain will mean the absence of all English history as we know it, and everything that came from the British Empire as a result, as modern-day Britain only exists due to Rome's ancient influence, going as far back as establishing the original city of London. But we won't worry about that for this timeline. If anything, whatever role Britain played in colonial and industrial history, Rome may even fill on its own. In our timeline, the Western Roman Empire was beset by constant civil wars, economic decline, and external invasions by barbarian tribes. In this alternate history, the empire takes decisive action to address these challenges, starting at the end of the reign of Emperor Caesar Augustus, as he names Germanicus his heir over Tiberius. In our timeline, Augustus named Tiberius as his heir over the popular Germanicus. Tiberius ruled well in general, but made a fatal mistake by removing Germanicus from a successful campaign in Germania, likely to keep his chief rival from obtaining too much popularity. Germanicus would die soon after in Iberia, and Rome would never truly subjugate the Germanic peoples, leaving an opening for the future sacking of Rome. In this alternate timeline, with Germanicus leading Rome as its rightful emperor, the campaigns in Germania continue until all the tribes and lands east of the Rhine are fully conquered and integrated into the empire, never to rise up and cause a collapse of the West as they did in our timeline. To ensure the new barbarian tribes are loyal to the empire, Germanicus extends the rights of citizenship through military service to these new peoples. In Rome's Republican and early imperial days, the only way to become a citizen of the empire was to serve in its military. This incentivized millions to join the army, giving Rome access to the largest army in the region for centuries. In our timeline, this practice was disbanded in 212 AD by Emperor Caracalla, dramatically reducing the numbers Rome could call upon in times of war. This meant that the late Roman Empire, with a population of over 50 million around 400 AD, had at its disposal a total of 645,000 military men. By contrast, during the Punic Wars, Rome could call upon 375,000 fighting men, while the population of the entire empire was only around 4 to 5 million. The end of this policy meant that the total fighting force of Rome only doubled over a time in which its total population more than 10x'd. To ensure Rome's war-waging ability remains the envy and fear of the Western world, and to ensure it is able to fight off any would-be invaders, we will maintain in perpetuity the need to serve in the military as the only path to Roman citizenship. With its fighting population growing, Rome is able to launch swift invasions of Dacia, adding rich land and many new peoples to its empire and shortening its eastern borders, making the empire easier to defend from would-be invaders. The barbarian tribes of Dacia are extended the same option of serving in Rome's army to obtain citizenship status in the empire, and many join up as the region becomes more integrated and Latinized. Another cause of Rome's decline was the rapid inflation, or debasement, of its currency. Nero, only Rome's fifth emperor, chose to reduce the silver content in Roman coins from 100% to 90%, laying the groundwork for what would eventually become inflation rates of up to 15,000% by the 2nd century AD. This rampant inflation caused economic turmoil across the empire that Rome would never truly recover from. To prevent this, we will ensure that Nero either never comes to power or chooses not to inflate Rome's currency. The former is quite likely, as Nero came to power after Tiberius in our timeline, whom we are now replacing with Germanicus. It's entirely possible that after this change, Nero simply never becomes emperor. With this change in place, Rome's currency becomes stable, with no precedent for debasing the value of Roman coins. Rome's economy continues to flourish in this timeline, leading to greater technological development and population boom, subsequently leading to greater numbers in the Roman military and aiding Rome's expansion. Over time, Rome eventually seizes the Crimean lands on the other side of the Black Sea, and as this proves valuable for trade, Rome expands further to encompass the rest of the Caucasus Mountains, consolidating their eastern border and building a defensive position in the mountains. The Hunnic invasions still occur as they did in our timeline, but instead of encountering a disconnected set of Germanic tribes, which scatter and flee from these invasions, invading and conquering Rome in the process, as occurred in our timeline, the Huns encounter a powerful and united Roman defensive. The Huns are swiftly defeated and beaten back from Roman lands. Christianity still emerges as it did in our timeline and spreads rapidly across the unified empire. In this timeline, the Christian faith becomes the official state religion of the Roman Empire, with the Pope leading the Church from Rome and bringing greater legitimacy to the emperor, who converts and is baptized into the faith. Christianity unifies the people of Rome under a single belief system, creating a sense of cohesion across the empire not seen since the days of the early Republic. Rome remains largely stable throughout this timeline, but is drawn into repeated conflicts with its old enemies in Persia. This conflict continues until the rise of Islam and the Rashidun Caliphate out of Arabia. Unlike in our timeline, where both Persia and the Eastern Roman Empire, having been weakened by centuries of war with each other, are divided, defeated, and nearly conquered by the Rashidun Caliphate, Rome and Persia, stronger in this timeline, unite to fight off their new common enemy. After brutal conflict, the coalition of giants subdues the upstart caliphate and divides the Arabian Peninsula between them. Rome and Persia maintain a tentative peace for decades, enriching themselves through trade with China and India, which passes through Persian lands on its way to and from Rome. This peace is ended when Persia, feeling they are not receiving enough of the benefit from the trade that passes through their lands, launches a blockade of the Persian Gulf and of Rome's largest seaport in the east. In response, Rome launches a swift invasion of the Straits of Hormuz, quickly seizing the coastlines. From there, Rome consolidates its power over the Arabian Peninsula and over the Persian Gulf, and installs a puppet emperor friendly to Rome to rule over the defeated Persia. Pax Romana remains dominant over the Western world, until a new threat emerges out of the distant north. That's right, Vikings. If this video gets 50 likes, I'll post a part 2 where Rome faces off against the Viking invasions of the 9th century. But these are just my thoughts. What are yours? Comment below. Like this video, and comment if you want to see a part 2 where Rome is forced to contend with the Viking invasions, or a part 3 where Rome continues into the Industrial Age. With that, I've been Future History. If you like these alternate histories, I'll be posting new videos at least once per week. If this interests you, consider subscribing to the channel. If you have an idea for an alternate history you'd like to see, comment your idea below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a wonderful day.